We're live.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Allilon Unplugged number 24. First of all, thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna talk you through what I'm doing tonight. I'm gonna have some fun tonight. I'm gonna do something a little bit creative, something that's gonna allow me to express myself. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm going to be working with the back and the sides as one zone. So this side here, including the centre back, will be my first zone, my first starting point, okay? I'm going to have quite a few different zones running through this haircut. It's going to be quite a funky little haircut. I've got a really beautiful girl who's really open-minded. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today. So, what am I going to do? Before we start, I'm going to discuss and show you my zoning, okay? So, my zone starts, I'll show you, off the centre back. I'm going to start in the middle here. I'm going to start by taking a vertical section, okay? And then I'm going to work this whole side first. So technically, my first zone starts here, it goes square, and then from there it goes all the way around to the corner of the recession, okay? So how I'm going to start my haircut, if you put your head down for me as far as you can go. Perfect, thank you. I'm going to start in the centre, and I'm going to groom, and this is really, really important, I'm going to groom all of the hair across. Now, I was talking to Michelle earlier on today, and I was saying to her that what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go into a lot of detail today. I'm really going to try to focus not just on doing a haircut. I really want tonight to be a really strong education tool for you, okay? So I'm going to focus on lots of little details. So as you're grooming the hair, if you look closely, Jamie, when you comb the hair, don't just comb the hair like that. Actually comb it and rest the back of your comb on the head. And what happens is you get it super, super tight and super, super clean. So watch again, you wrap it round and you become super, super clean. That way, now I've got my cutting zone to work on. Okay? So, my starting point will be in the back. I'm going to start at the nape, and I'm going to take, it's a diagonal section, but it's closer to vertical than it is horizontal. Okay? I'm going to comb the hair out from the base, and I'm going to use the existing, can you see there's already a shape underneath there? I'm going to use the existing shape as a guide, but I'm just going to take off a little bit of length. Let me just check. Michelle, are we live? Can you see it live?
We're live.
Perfect, okay. So my cutting angle is triangular. That way what I'm doing is I'm building some weight in the centre back, okay? My sectioning pattern will move diagonally across to the hairline at this point. When I get to this point, my sectioning pattern will pivot to vertical. So this will be my first pivoting point at this zone here, where the hairline changes direction. So head down for me, keep your head there for me if you can, that'd be brilliant. Okay, so my section now is going to move parallel to the first, but it's going to go slightly higher. So now I'm introducing obviously more hair up top. Now horizontally my shape's going to be round. So what that means, it means that the hair that I'm actually cutting is coming straight out from the base. So technically, when I'm combing this way. I'm combing 1 to 2, okay? The only thing that's creating the graduation in this scenario isn't my over direction. It's actually the angle of my cutting line, okay? The over direction in this scenario is going to be on the base. So the cutting line is the main thing that's kind of dictating that shape that I'm creating.
Johnny, can I just interrupt for a second?
I want you to.
Pedro just sent us a message saying hi from Vancouver, just about to do a primary disconnection lecture to my group, introducing them to Allilon Unplugged.
Fantastic. So hello guys, if they are watching, hello. Welcome, and I hope you're going to have, I know you're going to have a lot of fun with Mr. Pedro. This is the Allilon Unplugged. We do it every Tuesday. Again, watch carefully. See, because I started talking, I lost concentration for a second. So comb from the back forward. That way I'm pulling out the section straight out from the base. So yeah, we do this every Tuesday, 7 o'clock, depending on what country we're in. Obviously last week we were in the Philippines, so we did it at 7 o'clock Filipino time. We're back in London this week, so we're doing it obviously UK time. What you could do, let me show you a little tip what I just did. Take your section with the wide end of the comb. A friend of mine rang me up this morning and we were discussing when to use the wide end of the comb, when to use the tight end of the comb. And this is a perfect example. The hair is very dense. So for me to groom the hair easily, I'm using the wide end of the comb because then I can glide through much more simpler. Then what you do is use the tight end of the comb and you just comb it once, twice, just to get it away from that section. That way it's clean. And then you come from the back and pull it out. That's how you control and you work really technically and really, really clean. Tilt the head to the side for me. That way, let me show you now. Zoom out, Jamie. Look at my back. This is no good for me. This posture is no good because the head is straight. But if I tilt the head, all of a sudden, I can straighten up. So now I've got much more control over my body posture and my arm position, okay? And again, if I bend my knees, I can also stand parallel without bending my spine. So now, if you look down, Jamie, you can see that I'm actually bending my knees. So I'm squatting, in effect. I'm doing my gym workout as I'm cutting hair. Now, I've hit the corner of the hairline. My sectioning pattern now will start to pivot to vertical. So, going back to the beginning, my zone came from the recession, curved, to just below the crown and across in a square manner. Then centrally vertical section from top to bottom. Diagonal sections coming off that. My diagonal sections were closer to vertical than they was horizontal. Now I've got to this point here, which is where the corner of the hairline is. My sectioning pattern will pivot. So this is my pivot point. Okay. So, quick question to Pedro, if you're still watching. My question would be, are the guys going to watch quite a bit of this? Or because if it is, this isn't necessarily primary disconnection. It's slightly more advanced disconnection, but it could be a good point, a good starting point for them to be able to visualize this connection. So you can let us know, Paddy. Okay, so as you can see now, my section now is actually going to move on the top. So now I'm coming from the top down, I'm aiming for that corner there, constantly. Once, twice, like we said before, and then come from the back. And that way, I'm constantly working clean. Yeah, it's really, really, really important that you work clean. I say it every week, I teach it every day, and it's something that is, for me, it's like, well, not just for me, sorry, for everybody, it's just such an important factor that people need to really add to their repertoire of work because it makes a huge difference, a huge difference. Again, tight end of the comb it away once, twice, pick it up, then come from the back so you pull it straight out from the base. Now you can see what's going to happen is I'm actually going to start to become a little bit flatter now. So all of a sudden my shape, which is building weight, is now turning into a shape which is now flattening the weight internally. So if you look at it carefully, Jamie, if you come around here, babe, you can see, if you look carefully at the weight line, look at the top, you can actually see the point where the weight starts to go higher because it's becoming flatter as we go up. Now all this, I'll cut a beautiful little outline later on, but for now, my external shape is my internal shape, okay?
Johnny, we have a question from Antonio Stefano.
Hello Antonio, first of all, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and please feel free to ask me as many questions as you want, okay? It helps me guide the haircut through a lot easier.
Says, why don't you start cut with section pivot?
Okay, so that's a good question. If I started my first section, zoom into me. If I started my first section pivoting from this point, watch what would happen. If my first section was from here, my very first section would actually be quite diagonal. It wouldn't be closer to the vertical. So what would happen is, the danger of doing that, or the reason why my advice would be not to do that, would be that the only way then you can pivot from there, you'll go a lot flatter through here, and the chances are your elevation won't necessarily be as easy to control. Whereas by working more vertically, or closer to vertically, you're going to easily control your vertical shape a lot easier. So basically the reason why is because I wanted to have a greater control over my vertical shape.
So Ped didn't answer what you said, but he did throw a few questions out.
Okay.
So the first question is, do you want me to just throw them all at you and you can answer them?
Yeah, hit me one at a time, obviously.
What is a line?
What is a line? Okay,
Yeah.
a line is created when all the hair is combed down and cut at its natural fall. So, bear with me 1 second, let me just... I'm coming from the back forward, and now my cutting line has actually become square. Can you see that? I'm no longer triangular. I'm coming from the back and pulling the hair straight out from the base. Okay, sorry, so the answer to your question was a line is created when all the hair has come to the same point and cut with no elevation. And a line is basically a form of graduation.
Okay, so he also just added, just want my students to understand the importance of all speaking the same language.
Oh, I hope I got it right, Ped, otherwise we've got a problem with it.
So the next question is, what is elevation?
Okay, elevation is the extent to which the hair is lifted away from the point of its natural fall, and is a major contributor in controlling the distribution of length and weight in the horizontal and vertical shape. Not a major one, sorry. It is a elevation is one of the main things when you think about shape. Like in this scenario, for example, I'm using elevation, I'm using over direction, and I'm using my cutting line. And sometimes one of the biggest problems people have is they're not quite sure what's actually playing a part at what point. So when you think about this principle, so if you think, head down for me, Tom. Okay. When I was here, my cutting line was really dominant. And as I've worked through, my cutting line was still dominant, but elevation was constantly being used. So elevation is the extent to which the hair is lifted away from its natural fall, okay? And it is one of the factors that basically controls your distribution of length and weight in your horizontal and vertical shape. And thinking about it like that, thinking about that process, it's the same with over direction. Over direction, again, controls the distribution of length and weight in the horizontal and vertical shape, same as your cutting line, which is the major contributor. So all these factors, all these techniques play a part in creating your shape.
So he has one more.
Okay.
He said, what is expanded shape?
What is expanded shape? Expanded shape is a shape that is visible when all the hair is standing straight out from its base. So if you think about it in this scenario, my expanded shape is, in this scenario, my expanded shape would be obviously triangular, but because the angle of my cutting line is triangular, but this hair doesn't sit here, this hair here stands out here. So what would happen is it would actually go slightly flatter. Okay? When you think about expanded shape, imagine the hair standing straight out from its base. And because the head is round, the shape will always end up having some kind of curvature to it because of the fact that obviously the surface that it's on is quite round. So in this scenario, through the side, it's very square. That hair would come out here, which means that technically it would look shorter here than it would here. It's actually really fascinating when you really start to dissect a shape. It's really interesting trying to think about where the hair would naturally push out and sit.
Pat said, thanks partner, gotta get back to work, love you.
Tell him, love him back, and I hope I got it right, because if I didn't, I'm going to hear it for the next couple of weeks. Okay, so, vertical section. Comb the hair straight out. And now what I'm doing is I'm working on the base, but with a square cutting line. I think the thing when Ped's talking about the language and the discipline behind the language, it's like being able to turn around to somebody and say, look, elevation is the extent to which the hair is lifted away from its natural fall, and elevation controls the distribution of length and weight within the horizontal and vertical shape. Being able to have that as part of your vocabulary, being able to use it on a regular basis, allows you consistency. So everybody you come into contact with, when you share the language, slowly, the language becomes an absolute norm, an absolute standard, and that's what we're trying to create. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across with horizontal sections using this point here as my guide. So Jeremy, if you come around here, darling. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this point here as my guide, and I'm going to cut, again, a round cutting line. So I'm going to comb the hair from the underneath. Can we come around here a little bit? And try and film it from above if you can. Try and film it from above, okay. What I'm doing now is I'm combing the hair straight up. I'm keeping my fingers parallel to the scalp, okay? And I'm actually going to work slightly more of a rounded shape this way. So I'm making sure by combing it from the underneath, I'm guaranteeing that I'm combing the hair out from its base, okay? That way, the elevation is obviously a massive factor in this particular scenario, and what it's doing is guaranteeing that I'm pulling the hair straight out. Once I've done that, let me show you what you do now, and this is the interesting bit. I could stand here and literally comb it all up. The danger is by standing here, I can't really see the root of the first section in zone 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand around here, I'm going to tilt the head towards me, that way I don't have to bend. I'm going to take horizontal sections like this, okay? Comb the hair through, and then when I comb the hair up, I can actually look at the root of the first section. That way I'm guaranteeing that I'm lifting the hair to the correct position. So what's going to happen is it will disconnect itself behind the ear. Okay. And again, every section putting it straight up and looking at the root. Now, can anybody who's watching, I don't know how many people are watching, but whoever's watching, can you answer this question for me? Why is it important to be able to look at the root? What information does looking at the root give you? Okay, let's put that out there, and let's see who can have a little stab at it and see if we can share this with everybody. So my question is, why is it important to always look at the root? What does that do? What information does it give you?
Allison says tension.
Good, very good. It gives you, it allows you to assess the tension in regards to the elasticity of the skin. Who said that? Alison?
Allison Hastings.
Okay, well done, Alison. That's definitely one factor. Okay, now guys, just to bring your attention to what I'm going to do now. Again, I'm using Day Day.
Darius also said because of the tension.
Okay, good. But there's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to work diagonal sections now, working backwards to just where the ear starts, literally just to that point there. And I'm going to crop this hair down so that basically I have a layer length that runs behind the ear here.
So Dennis said the direction of movement of the hair.
Good. Can Dennis? What's Dennis's surname?
Dittery.
Okay. Can Dennis elaborate a bit further?
Okay. Andreas says control of over direction.
Good. Okay. And
Marina
yes.
says degree of elevation.
Good. So as a team, we're getting there. One more.
Antonio also says the root is the key to see the elevation.
Good. So very, very good. So far we've got elevation and over direction.
Matthew Watt says it shows you how much over direction you're using and how much elevation, whether or not you are going away from natural fall.
Good.
I'm sorry if I said his name wrong. Lian says growing pattern, direction of the roots.
Growth patterns, good. Direction of the roots, good. Guys, Wiki, first of all, thank you for the interaction. I'm loving it because a lot of the answers are definitely correct. There's one thing that I need someone to say to me. So if you can keep going, and I'll give you a minute or two, and then I'll tell you the answer.
So Dennis just elaborated.
Okay.
He said it allows you to see how you'd like to over-direct.
Okay, yes, correct. He's right. We're still not there yet. Okay, so this is the last section that I'm cutting in this particular area. So guys, for those of you who are watching, first of all, I'm loving the interaction tonight and I want as much of this as possible. Also, if you want to share this, on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, there's the share button. Please feel free to share it, because the more people that can have a little look and get involved, I mean, I love it. I love it. I feel like I feel like I'm teaching and I feel like I'm sharing. So I love the interaction. So please feel free to share it. And let's get as many people as we can interacting and asking as many questions and really putting me to the test, because it stimulates me. It makes me think a lot more.
Shireen asked a question. Do you want me to get to it afterwards?
We'll come back to that. Let me just tell you what I'm going to do now. We'll definitely come back to that, Shireen. Thank you for asking the question. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically comb the hair down. I'm going to secure the hair. So I'm not going to comb it forward. And then I'm going to visually, with the tips of the scissors, take away any excess. So can anyone answer why I'm not combing it forward? Why I'm just combing it naturally down? Why am I just securing the hair? Why am I not combing it forward? What would happen if I comb that hair forward and cut it? So to answer the previous question that I put out there, you're absolutely right. So this is why it's important to look at the root. This is such an important factor, okay, that people don't think about. By looking at the root, it helps you to assess a series of things. It helps you to assess your tension and the elasticity of the skin. It helps you to understand your elevation, your over direction, and the amount in which you're using. And more importantly, or just as important, sorry, is it helps you understand your number system. That's the answer that I need to hear. It helps you understand your number system, and your number system helps you understand whether or not the guide is moving or the hair that's being introduced to the guide is moving. Okay, which in effect is your over direction and your elevation. Right. So now, can you see obviously this hair over the? I could leave it quite soft. I don't know if I dislike it. I could leave it quite soft, because then that will just add a bit of texture to it. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to leave it soft. Okay. So did anyone answer why I didn't comb this hair forward, and what would be the difference?
To avoid graduation, Marina.
Okay, good. So by combing it forward, what I'm Marina, by combing it forward, basically I graduate the external shape. The danger of doing that is I lose the strength of my line, okay? Whereas by just combing it to its natural form, working the line in, I'm allowing there to be no excess graduation and a very, very defined line, okay? Now, spin the chair around, use your mirror, make sure you're happy with the shape. Is it looking good? Yeah, cool. Once I put an outline in there, that will really, this whole area here will just open up completely. So, one side, done, put to bed. Next zone. So I'm going to come around this way.
Can I answer Shireen's, can I ask Shireen's question now?
Give me 1 second, definitely. Shireen, I promise you we'll come to it. Let me just move you through to the next zone so we can travel through the haircut. From here now, I'm going to go right the way across to the top of the ear. So watch carefully. Go right way across to the top of the ear. That's actually a bit too far, because now I've gone into the sideburn area, so I need to go a bit lower down. Okay, now can you see I'm struggling more? The reason I'm struggling more is why? Because I'm using the tight end of the comb. Yeah? So watch again. Now watch how easy this becomes now. Using the wide end of the comb, I get there super easy with no restriction. Really groom that hair. Guys, I can't tell you how important this is, yeah? This grooming is the difference between a haircut being manageable and controlled and a haircut being a struggle and you constantly being lost with your shape. Really groom. If I move in your way, sorry Jamie. I'll try and keep out of your way. Really groom that hair. Tidy it up. I can use the ear, that way I don't have to use any sectioning clips. I don't know if you've noticed, but for those of you who watch every week, and for those of you who's your first time, as a company we try to avoid using clips, and the reason for that, especially when we're training our team, and also when we're doing our courses, is that by avoiding using clips, you're training yourself to work clean and groom, because it's very easy to just do that and throw a clip in it, but if you don't work clean, you have to use a clip, and being able to work this kind of cleanliness will allow you to not have to do that, and it will train you not to do that. So on this side, I'm going to do something different. So if you imagine up to that point there, I've got obviously a point of graduation, okay? What I'm going to start to do now is I'm going to start on this side with diagonal sections like this. I'm going to work back to that center point, and then at that point I'm then going to pivot into vertical, okay? So my second pivot area is basically going to be my very first section that I cut. Okay, Michelle, I'm all yours. Hit me. What's the question?
So Shireen's question, I think, was regarding the zone on the other side.
Okay.
It was when you were standing on the opposite side of the head.
Gotcha.
So she said, are you combing it from where it lives, or are you over-directing?
Okay, so technically, I was actually elevating it up. So I was combing it upwards. So I was using elevation, not necessarily over direction as such. Elevation was a much more of a dominant factor in that particular point.
And George has a question. George Latropoulos.
That's very close. You can tell George is Greek, because the name is always a lot harder. Don't worry, George. My name's Yanagis Othanagis Othana, and no one can ever say that, so don't worry.
Okay, can you explain that you told before about the root with example, the number system?
Okay, so by looking at the root, basically you're able to see, like now I'm looking at this root here, yeah? I'm able to see, let me do that so you've got better light. Come around here. Is that better light?
Great.
Perfect. So by looking here, I'm able to see whether or not my hair is moving straight out or going upwards or downwards. Okay? So let me comb the hair really neat so you can really see that root. Okay, so I'll use the tight end to get it really neat, and then use the wide end again. Comb it once, twice, so you're away from that point, and then come back around this way. Can you see now that the root's coming out from its base? Whereas if I comb this way, look at the root, it's going down now. So that's affecting my elevation, okay? So by being able to look at the root, I'm able to understand my over direction and my elevation, which is my number system. So in this scenario, my number system is 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. And that's my number system which I'm using at the moment. Now this is going to be quite interesting for people to see. What can I use to help me control my length? What can I use to help me control my length visually? What can I use visually to help me control my length? That's the question I'm putting out there to the audience, okay? Let's see if someone can get it. How do I know? What can I use visually? Head down for me, darling. Relax your neck a little bit. Perfect. If you can keep your head there for me wherever I put it, that would really help. What can I use visually to help me see if my mechanics are clean, but 2, if my choices of length are correct, and if I'm following my guide properly?
Gianluca says mirror.
Okay, hey Gianluca.
Nicola says comb.
Comb, okay, good. What else? Who else was there?
George is thanking you for the
It's a pleasure.
answer for his question earlier.
It's a pleasure. So, what about the other guys who were answering the question before? See now, I'm almost hitting that point with the short hair, okay? That's when I'm going to start to pivot.
Carrie said hair color.
Well done. There you go. That's the answer I needed. So the colour will help me understand whether or not I'm being consistent. In other words, if all of a sudden the colour becomes really blonde when I'm practically cutting the blonde out, it will show me that my over direction is not correct. So the colour helps me communicate and understand my over direction and my elevation and my choice of length. Good. Well done. Who said that? Who answered that?
That was Carrie Partridge.
Carrie, well done, darling. Very good. Colour helps you understand if you're in control. Colour communicates to you what the lengths are doing. So you can see that the blonde is running consecutively up the shape. Okay? Now if you notice what I'm doing, as I'm pivoting, I'm going much tighter than that point there. So what's going to happen is, there's going to be dark hair next to the blonde hair, which are basically left longer and more graduated. So as I travel up the head, my fingers are slowly becoming tighter and tighter to the inside of the shape. So I'm going to cut more and more and more of the colour out, so that when I get to the point where my graduation is in the middle, there's two zones that basically, the only place they connect is at the external place, the external length. This is the only place they're going to be connecting. Internally, it's going to be flat and triangular, like that, two different shapes. One shape flat and one shape triangular. So I'm using my pivoting and the angle of my fingers to change the length and to create a much tighter, shorter shape. So now I'm practically cutting the colour out completely. So I'm going nice and tight. Tweet. Tweet like a glove. Right, sorry, I don't know where that came from. Right, back to my haircut. I'm almost there. I'm almost in the last maybe 1 or 2 sections before I start hitting my graduation. And you can see the blonde is becoming less and less and less. Good. Okay, so my number system in zone 2, which is basically the back on the right hand side, my number system is 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, exactly the same as my number system on the opposite side. The only difference is, in fact, no, who can tell me the difference between the two? So my number system was exactly the same. So why is the shape completely different? If the number system was the same as the opposite side, why is one shape and the other shape completely different? Okay, good. Okay, making sure it connects in the bottom. This bit's really important, that it connects at the bottom, because that way, later on, visually it will connect, even though technically, internally, it has no connection at all.
Carrie Partridge says choice of length.
Good.
Posomo says shape of the hair and hair density.
Okay.
Matthew Watt says your choice of length and cutting angle.
Good. Very good. Who's that, Matthew Watts?
Yeah, Matthew Watt.
Well done, Matthew. Spot on. So it's cutting angle as well as choice of length, which somebody else mentioned before, just prior to that as well. So
Carrie
well done.
Partridge.
Kerry, well done. So again, when I cut it, what I do is I basically wet it down with Day Day, because Day Day has a conditioning agent, and I comb it down into place and I leave it. And what's going to happen is now, with the heat, which is from the head's obviously releasing natural heat. So what will happen is it will dry the roots for me, which will then allow the ends to do all the work for me after, really easily. Okay, zone 1, zone 2, done. Now we're going to move to zone 3. Zone 3 is going to come on the underneath, but I was thinking of doing something where I keep a bit of kind of a scruffy texture here, and I think I still might do that. So what I'll do is let me be a bit more creative. So I'll cut this in half, okay, and then from here I'll come right the way up to the recession. Let me get this super clean for you. Comb all this hair, which is now superfluous, comb it all that way. Get it out of the way. Sorry, Jamie. And then from here, I'm going to come diagonally down to here. And again, this hair here, which is not being cut yet, I'm just going to move it all across over there. Really groom that hair really well. Look, I'm using the base of my fingers to groom the hair properly, okay? Now I know that more and more and more people are doing these kind of Facebook Live type things, and I love it. I think the more people do it, the more obviously gets shared. What I would say to everybody is please, please, please remember that there's always going to be somebody watching, or there could be thousands of people watching. So really be mindful of your attention to detail, because it's so infectious sharing knowledge. It's so impactful into people kind of following what it is that you're doing and how you're working. So if, for example, if I'm working lazily now, people would just tune off anyway, or maybe they might not, I don't know, God knows. But you know, just please be mindful that you're setting a standard, you're setting an example, and really try and work as clean as you can, because young hairdressers are really influenced by what we do and what they see. Okay, so now I've got, obviously it was quite a triangular shape at first, and I've just curved it off because that way the shape becomes much more fluid. I want to keep this quite long in front of the ear, so on the other side it's behind the ear, but can you see the bend in the hair on this side? Look, can you see it bends backwards? So if I keep this length here, it's basically going to keep breakdancing back, so there's no point in me keeping it. So I'm going to lose, I want to cut all this off, but this hair's sitting quite nice, can you see? It's got a nice little movement to it, so I'm going to keep that. So I'm going to start here at the recession again. I'm going to take a diagonal section, comb the hair out, establish my choice of length. I want it to be able to bend, so I need at least 1.5 centimeters worth of length. And I'm cutting a round cutting line, so I need it to bend. See how it bends nicely? Okay, comb once that way, but the thing is, because I want to work on the base, I need to come back. So the problem is I'm actually starting to introduce this hair here now, which is the sideburn length. So I'm going to take a slightly more vertical section. So I'm literally just cutting the hair. Can you see where the hairline changes direction? I need to go from there up. Yeah? So I'm going to come like that. Comb this hair out the way. I'm literally just going to cut 2 sections, or 3 sections just in the front hairline. So this is my second section. I'm going to comb it out. So comb from the 1 to 2 again, with a round cutting line. And then again, after you've cut it, place it into position. Now you can see this point now is the point where my length kicks in the sideburn. I want to keep this length, but I want to crop this shape inside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a vertical section. I'm going to ignore the cutting line for the previous section, apart from the tip right at the top. Tip top, this length here. Okay? So now what you do, pick the hair up, comb it out from the base. Forget that point now. Go right to the top, put the guide in so you're accurate, and change the angle to really maintain that length. So now my cutting line is now officially triangular rather than round, and I'm maintaining a lot of length on my perimeter. So externally, my length is getting longer, whereas internally, my shape is basically shorter. So my vertical shape in this scenario is triangular. My horizontal shape is going to be round, because I'm going to pull the hair out from the base still. So my number system is exactly the same, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. But again, the angle of my cutting lines have changed the amount of hair that sits here and here. And keep working that. I'm sure if you've got any more questions, feel free to ask away, okay? Vertical sections. Groom the hair nice and neatly. Okay, tilt the head to the side, that one back straightens up. I come back onto myself, that way I'm pulling the hair that way. If you come over here, Jane, over here, look, I can see the root of the skin. Yeah? By standing here, I can see the root of the section that I'm cutting. Comb the hair out, tension, be mindful of the tension because of the elasticity of the skin. If you're going to use tension, remember, it's not how much tension you use, it's the consistency in which the tension is being used that will dictate the shape, okay? Again, another section, like that. And then, again, I'm going to change everything I'm doing in about 30 seconds. So.
Dennis has a question.
Hey Dennis, feel free to ask away.
So he said, what years did you work at Sassoon?
I started hairdressing when I was about 15 or 16, and I started in a salon, a barber shop actually, ironically, in Archway, and I worked there for a good couple of months. I loved it. I loved the banter. I loved kind of talking about football and, you know, kind of boy stuff, and I really enjoyed that idea, that principle, and I like the idea of kind of playing with your hands and being very active with your hands. That was where I started my hairdressing journey. Just to bring your attention on, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to take diagonal sections like this, connecting it into this back length here. Okay, so this length here I don't want to disturb, so for now I'm just going to comb it forward, even though technically I need it to sit. I need it to dry where it naturally wants to sit, but for now, just to get it out of the way, I'm going to do that. What I could do actually to make it easier for myself is I could ignore that section in front, come here again. Now again, if I want it to be balanced, what can I use to help me get it balanced the same as the back? I can use the colour. So look, if you comb the hair out and I place my fingers at the point of where the colour is and I cut it, I know my length is very similar to the length that I've got in the back, which goes back to my previous point about using the colour to help you get your balance and your choice of length. Oh, work clean, try not to disturb that hair. So I'm going to go 1, 2 sections. 1, 2 sections, same principle. Comb it out from the base, so comb backwards. See, look, the danger of doing that is that you pick up all this hair. So what you've got to do is you've got to really get this out the way, so you're not disturbing it at all. And then come here again. Come from the back, but just look at the root of the hair that you're cutting, so you know you're pulling it straight out from the base, and use the colour to tell you your story. Going back to Dennis's question, so basically I worked in Peter's Barbers, Junction Barbers in Archway for a couple of months. Then I moved to a Glenby salon in Selfridges, and then from there I moved to what was Vidal Sassoon, and then from there I was there for about 13 years, I think, in the end, 13 or 14 years. And then from there, I basically changed direction. So, now, I'm going to come around, I'm going to cut some of the colour away from here, just so that way visually, I think it will look aesthetically better with the hair that's coming around from the top. So I'm going to try and cut off a bit more of the colour.
Alex says, what is the name of this cut with a winky smiley face?
This is called the Alex haircut. Just now, I've named it just now, that's it, it's done.
And Milo is asking, I love your scissors, which one do you use?
Today I'm using the gunmetal grey wings. So I'm using these ones. I'm not going to lie, I'm absolutely in love. Can't put them down. I honestly cannot put them down. We've got obviously two sets now, 2 different sets, the black ones and the gunmetal grey ones, and it's like anything, you guys know anyway, it's like having a new toy. So I've got a new toy that I'm playing with at the moment, and I don't want to put it down.
Alex is asking, is it like a pixie cut?
It's like an Alex cut. This is basically going to be a variation of different shapes. Let me just get rid of that. I don't want to disturb that. Make sure it works super clean. This is obviously a variation of short hair and long hair. It's not going to look like a pixie cut when it's done, because I'm going to keep quite a lot of length through the top.
James Abu Opa.
Hey James.
He said, hey Johnny, went for dinner with Pedro last night. We were missing you.
Oh, tell him. Did Ped get a dessert? Because if he did, he's in trouble. He shouldn't be eating rubbish He's such a health freak now.
Milo said that the internet went out for a second, his internet, so he said, what's the brand again? Sorry, and thank you.
It's okay. The brand is basically it's an Allilon scissor. So it's our own branded scissors. If you'd like to purchase them, if you go on to, or if you email info@alliloneducation.com, info@alliloneducation.com, you'll be able to just basically email us, and we'll be able to send them to you. Okay, so now I'm going to start to work out into a bit more of the colour now. I want to keep a bit more of the length through the back now.
James said they had cookies.
They had cookies. Ped better have brought me one. Ped's gluten-free. Why is he having cookies for?
Wynad is asking, why are you standing behind your model while you're cutting? Is it for effect or so that we can see?
There's a couple of different reasons, if I'm honest. Obviously, when you're doing this type of idea, where you've got a camera kind of filming, you obviously want everyone to be able to see. So sometimes you have to put yourself out, just like when you're demonstrating on stage. But at the same time, the reason I'm standing here, can anybody else answer that question for me? If anyone out there can think about why I would stand here, that would be good. If not, I will answer it for you.
So Dennis just said, if you come to Chicago, I'd love you to do a haircut for Old School Sassoon, which I created.
I am actually coming to Chicago in about... When am I going to Chicago, Jamie?
4 weeks?
About 3 or 4 weeks, yeah.
4 weeks.
I'm going to be in Chicago. I'm doing a primary shapes course there. And then from there, from Chicago, I go to, I think it's LA for a day. And then I go to San Francisco for a day. And then I go to San Diego for a day. And then I come home.
Milo's asking if you ship to the US for the scissors.
The answer is yes, we do. We ship anywhere around the world.
So we have a few answers.
Okay.
Marina says to help you stay on base.
Arrived today. I'm not going to lie. I'm loving it. Say that again.
So Marina said to help you stay on base.
Okay. Almost.
Tonic Hairstyle says roots.
Yes, both of them are kind of correct.
James says palm moved with the round of the head.
Okay.
Matthew Watt says so you can see the root.
There you go. But what root am I seeing? Because I'm not seeing the root of the guide. I'm actually looking at the root of the hair that I'm cutting. So in this scenario, even though 1 is going to 2, 2 is going to 3, 3 is going to 4, 4 is going to 5, by standing here I'm able to see the root of section 5, see the root of section 6, see the root of section 7. So now guys, I'll keep this quite soft. I'm gonna let this, so I've dampened it down with some water just to hydrate it, and I'm gonna use a little bit of Day Day again, just on the tips. Now I'm gonna comb it through like that, and I'm gonna comb it. Look what I'm doing with the comb. I'm gonna bend it, and what will happen is, it will naturally. I'm supporting it with my finger. I'll get like a little bit of a kiss curly type feeling just on the end, so I can get it a bit fluffy later on. Okay, good. Now this little zone here, do you remember section 1 and section 2? I just comb that down with the wide tooth of the comb. I'll move that hair out of the way. And then visually, just pop that in. So I don't comb it, I don't want any graduation on that. Okay? Alright. So that's my shape on the underneath done. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut the outlines once it's dry. So I'm going to move on to the top now. Now, we've got quite a weak fringe area. There's quite a lot of breakage there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across the top like that. I'm going to go from left to right. Groom this hair out of the way nice and neatly. Okay, Now, the issue I have is that it doesn't have a massive jump, but there is an element of lift in the root, especially like on this side. So I'm actually going to start my haircut, my fringe area, sorry, in the danger side. So in the side that has the most movement or the most jump, okay? Now, if you can see carefully, some of you when I do this, you're going to be thinking, well, why don't you just blow dry it straight and just cut it straight, yeah? So why don't I just blow dry it flat and then cut it? If I do that, yes, it's going to make my life easier, and yes, it's going to avoid creating me problems, and I'll get away with it much easier. But I'm not actually assessing whether or not it was the right length, because I'm falsifying it with a blow dry. So when she does it herself at home, it's just not going to be the same. So what I need to do is I need to get it right, wet, so it sits, and then when it's dry, she won't have a problem after. It's really important, even though it makes my life a little bit harder, at least I know I've got the right length and it's accurate, you know what I mean? I'm not guessing. So I'm going to come through here, slightly thinner section. Now I need the length to be long enough to bend. So I comb the hair up, come around here, film over my shoulder, Jay. Come here, and then look, I release the hair, look. Can you see that bend in the hair? Now if I cut it there, where the colour is, it's going to sit. It's a little bit spiky. It will still bend, but it's going to be spiky and it's not really going to look as pretty. Whereas if I cut it in the middle there, it's going to flick. So if I cut it after that point, I'll have enough length for the hair to bend. So I'm going to cut it just after the bend. I'm going to cut a triangular cutting line. And then what I do is, if I comb the hair down now, I can see how it bends and it's manageable. It's going to control itself. And my sectioning pattern is going to move around the head like this, and I'm going to comb 1 to 2. You see how the hair feels like it's very, very delicate, so it'll be good getting rid of all this and kind of starting afresh with her.
Dejan just says, regards from Serbia, just wanted to say that your latest collection, Wiggle, is amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very, very kind. The team did an amazing job. All of the Allilon team did obviously play a part in the collections, and they did a really, really, really good job with the models, and the haircuts and the colours were obviously fantastic. And Andy did the photography, and Karen helped out with the clothes, and Cara the makeup. And I mean, it's a great. It's one of my favourite collections, recent collections. We've just literally finished filming and shooting the most recent now. So that will be out in a couple of months' time. And I'll be honest with you, I'm in love with it. I think it looks gorgeous. So I hope everyone likes it when it comes out. Thank you for the compliment. That's very kind of you, Dejan. Okay, so now I'm going to continue working on the base, grooming the hair as I work. Combing it straight out with that triangular cutting line. So the young man who asked about Chicago, what was his name? Dennis. So is he based in Chicago?
I guess so. He said when you come to Chicago, he wants you to do an old school Sassoon haircut that he did.
An old school Sassoon haircut.
But he did mention that he'll see you when you're in Chicago, so he's going to make an effort to...
It'd be lovely to meet you. If any of you are in Chicago, or in Seattle, or in San Diego, or in LA, and you want to get tickets to see, and if there's any available, just message us and we will see if there's anything available. Also, we've got a primary shapes course running in New York, and a primary shapes course running in Vancouver, which I think there's about 2 more slots for the New York, and I think there's 3 slots for the Vancouver, if I remember rightly. So if anyone would like to take those slots, please message us, and we will organise that for you.
Dennis said he is based in Chicago.
Cool. Well, thank you for watching, Dennis. I hope you're enjoying it. Okay, right. So I've come to the end of this zone here, which is my fringe. And what I'm going to do now is, because I'm actually really enjoying it, so I'm actually cutting quite slowly, so I do apologise. I just realised I'm not in my own little zone right now. I'm just taking my time, cutting it nice and slow. So what I'll do is I'll speed up a little bit, sorry. Became a bit selfish then for a second. I was in the zone, man. Okay, bit of DD, bit of water, calm it down, let it start to dry. Okay, now, what I'll do after, by the way, is I'll cut a fringe in once it's dry. So I've got my weight, which is going to manage the movement, and then after I want to put something really graphic in there. So I've got my length from the top. Now, I could cut this wet, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow dry the whole thing, put all my outlines in, and then I'll cut this dry. Okay? So to blow dry, I'm going to use Love Smooth from Davinus. This is a really, really good product. Sorry, got a bit. What's it called? QVC. QVC for a second. It's a beautiful product for drying bleached hair. Really, really hydrates the hair. It really does. It's really good. So apply it wherever you feel it needs it, and then really work it into the shape. Really work it in. And it will just, the hair will just go, and just kind of suck it all in. Really work that product in, get it through everywhere. So, there's something that I forgot to mention today. We've been teaching a kind of bespoke cutting course for some very good friends of ours. Sitting over here behind us, over here, from Costa Rica, there is our group. You have Gabriela, who's a distributor in Costa Rica. And our team from Costa Rica, and we'll be doing some cutting, which has been brilliant. Also, we've got a friend here from New Zealand, which is here for literally just a day, isn't it? You're literally here for one day. So she's been watching us teach a little bit in the academy, and also kind of watching us, watching the sun. What were you doing downstairs with the team?
Just observing.
Observing, yeah? So whereabouts in New Zealand are you from again?
Auckland.
Auckland.
From Ryder Salon.
From Ryder Salon. Mr. Greg. He's a very nice man. I've got a lot of time for him. Is one of your colleagues? Yes? So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use the vest brush, okay? So I'm going to use the vest brush, and the reason why I'm going to use the vest brush is that basically I'll get a nice little bend in the hair, okay? And I'm going to use my hair dryer, which is hiding under here for me. I'm not going to use a nozzle, because I don't need it to. I want the air to circulate, and I'm going to wrap dry. I'm going to do this quite quickly, okay? So I'm not really going to go into too much detail about wrap drying, apart from the fact that the main thing to think about when wrap drying, the main focal point should be where you're positioning the hair to cool down. So really wrap that hair around the head, really stretch it around the head, and then place it down into position and allow the hair to set. Now, do you remember my little sideburn length on this side? My sideburn length, this length here, I don't want it to be straight. So I'm not really going to brush that. Okay, I'm just going to let the air dry around it. So I'm not actually going to brush that hair there on the bottom. So if you can see, I'm focusing the airflow down there, but I'm not really going to brush it. Now, when you're wrap drying, if I give you one really important tip, don't take the brush off the head. So when you're wrapping the hair, literally keep the, look at my wrist. Keep the brush on the head. Don't do that, which a lot of people do, which makes all the ends flick out. Okay? Really wrap the hair. Airflow facing down, wrap it forward, wrap it backwards. Again, I'm trying to avoid wrap drying the sideburn area, because I don't want it to be straight. I want it to be like a fluffy, kiss curly type area. And I'm probably going to fluff it up a little bit if I'm honest.
Johnny,
Yes.
Milo asked if you're coming to the East Coast.
I will be coming to the East Coast at some point, but it will be for teacher training. I can't really tell you a lot about it because it's a bit of a top secret thing, but we will be doing a stint on the West Coast and the East Coast, maybe 2-3 times a year, doing some teacher training. But then we will also be doing courses in on the East Coast and the West Coast as well. So we're doing a lot more in the US now. We've been mainly focused for the past 6-7 years. We've been really focused on places like Canada, South Africa, a lot of Europe. So we're now starting to get to the point now where we're focused on America.
Sue asked, I love your live cuts, amazing. What are your products called?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for the compliments, Sue. I appreciate it. It's very motivating and it helps me keep going. Thank you. The product range we use is a product line called, or product company called Davinus. Davinus is basically an Italian brand. Jamie, if you just go away and just scan the products for me. So Davinus is an Italian brand based out of Parma. Basically the brand itself is very much about celebrating sustainability. If you want to Google it, it's D-A-V-I-N-E-S. So if you Google davinus.com, you'll be able to check out the products. We love them for many reasons, not just because they're good products, but because of the way the brand is produced, the sustainability aspects of it, the moral compass of the brand. It's definitely a brand that we associate ourselves with, and one that we respect, and one that I think has quite similar values to our salon brand, Enna. We have an amazing relationship with them. So what I'm doing now, guys, I'm not really focused on the ends of the hair yet. I'm just purely focused on the roots, because once the roots are doing what I want them to do, the ends will do exactly what I need them to do. Very, very easily and very, very quickly. Now, the best reason, now, let me ask the audience a question. Can anyone tell me the benefit of cutting the length and the hair on top once the hair is dry? Who can tell me the benefit, or one of the benefits, of cutting the length dry? And if they don't get it, I want you to answer it. Okay? I'm going to get it right. Okay, so now that I've wrap dried most of it, now I'm going to tension dry a little bit. So I start with the length behind the ear.
So you can see how it fits.
Okay, that's one good reason.
Daniel said softer blending.
Okay.
Jonathan said so you can see how damaged the hair is.
Is that Mr. Corby? Tell him to go away and do something else.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Well done, Jonathan.
Sue says, so you can see how it says, Ralphina says the hair jumps up.
Okay, so the main reason why I'm blow drying the hair is so that I can see and assess the texture of the hair and how much of the hair is damaged and really needs to be cut off.
Jonathan literally just said that.
So well done, Jonathan. He's absolutely right. Jonathan and Kate right now as we speak, they're in Poland, doing a course in Poland, and Pedro is in Vancouver, as we mentioned before. About 3 or 4 days ago, myself and Sam and Madeline were in the Philippines, and Pedro and Kate, Jonathan and Harriet were all in Palm Springs, teaching out there. And that's what's really nice at the moment. At the moment the team is getting bigger and bigger, and we've got some really amazing people coming through the system. And what's going to be good is being able to get to a point where we are now, where we've got multiple teams travelling the world, sharing the Allilon language and trying to teach and share their passions. How's the course going in Poland, Kate and Jonathan? I hope it's going well.
Vicky said that they rocked in Palm Springs. That's fun.
Aww. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the hair. Okay. So in effect what I'm doing is I'm trying to rehydrate the hair. So a bit of oil. And then back in front of your hands and really work it in. Now you can see the fringe at the moment is a bit lost. It's kind of, what's it doing? It's kind of there but it's not there. But in a minute when I put my fringe in, the whole front is going to come alive. Okay, I'm allowing this bit here to just dry by itself. You can see I'm not putting any major blow drying in here, so I don't mind if that's a bit soft and a bit movement. I'm working the shape down with the oil, putting the product in evenly. I'm going to use a little bit more because it's quite dehydrated. Okay, working that through evenly. Really work that through, and that's going to give me loads of shine. And then what I'll do is I'll wrap dry one more time with a paddle brush. That way, basically what will happen is I'll still have the bend from the vest brush, but it'll be a bit flatter at the root. So really work that product in.
Nellie said we'd like to see you in Mexico.
Hi Nellie, we definitely, we're coming to Mexico actually. I'm pretty sure we are. I think Johan's going to be there soon, in Mexico. And he's doing, I think, a seminar out there. Johan's based in Brazil, and he tends to look after the kind of South American market. He's going to Costa Rica with Gabriel and the team over here pretty soon. I would definitely, I'm not going to lie to you, I would love to go to South America, Cuba, Costa Rica, Mexico. I'd love to. It's only a matter of time. Really wrap that hair. Again, I'm not wrapping that sideburn area. This bit here, I'm going to let it just do its thing. Whatever it wants to do, I'm going to let it do. Again, focus on that fringe. Really get that fringe nice and neat.
So Jason is saying, is there any reason you didn't use a nozzle to dry?
Good question. Who's that from, sorry?
From Jason Hack.
Okay, first of all, thanks for the question, Jason. So, at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm wrap drying. Now, You can wrap dry with a nozzle, of course. You can wrap dry without a nozzle. My preferred preference is to wrap dry without a nozzle. And the reason why is because wrap drying for me is about allowing the air to circulate. So by using a wrap drying without the nozzle, the air is a much wider stream. Whereas with a nozzle, it's a lot more direct. So wrap drying for me is about allowing the air to circulate and move constantly to access a lot of hair at the same time. If I had quite stubborn hair, which needed a bit more of a directional kind of blow, then I would use the nozzle. But in this scenario, I don't need it. So I very rarely do use a nozzle, if I'm honest. I usually use a nozzle on long hair. Again, it is like anything, it's personal preference. Some things are not personal preference, some things are factual, but things like using the nozzle or using specific combs or, you know, specific scissors, it is to do with preference. So I'm not going to iron any of that now, okay? And the reason why I'm not going to iron it is because as I'm working the hair with my fingers and the oil, what will happen is the heat from the hands will encourage the hair to absorb the oil, okay? So what I'm doing now is I'm going to start by putting a fringe in, okay? So I'm going to comb this hair away, and I'll be able to deal with all this stuff later on. At the moment, I'm just going to focus on the short fringe, okay?
Nelly has a question.
Okay, good, I like that, I love questions.
Would you recommend this blow dry for any kind of hair textures?
It depends. She's based in Mexico. So Mexico obviously has quite a lot of different textures. I suppose the same as anywhere else, but obviously if you stereotype, I suppose you'd assume that a lot of the hair is quite textured and quite dense. So wrap drying can work, but then tension drying could probably work a little bit better. It just depends what look you're trying to get, really. Okay, so that's fine. So now, if you turn around and look in the mirror, okay, what I need to do is I need to understand what shape I want here, okay? So, in effect, what I want to do is create something quite graphic. So I'm just going to carve out a fringe, which is quite graphic, and give it some definition around the front of the face. You see my sideburn length where it drops into my length. So I'll basically secure that, make sure that's clean. I'll carve that away, and then now that I've put my basic shape in, I spend some time refining that line. I want there to be quite a lot of definition in that front fringe. I want it to be quite strong, quite powerful kind of finish. Again, tilt the head the other direction, comb the hair down. Let the hair move, let it do what it wants to do, put the basic shape in, and then spend your time really refining that line using a chipping technique. By doing this with a chipping technique, what will happen is the hair will have like a bit of a softer edge to it, and even when it moves, when she washes it, the line will always sit nice and neat.
Ralphina has a question. She says, how do you decide how much hair you want in the fringe when cutting one?
Great question. Okay, that's a very good question. Who asked that, sorry?
Ralphina.
Okay, very good question, Ralphina. So, let me show you, give me 1 second. Okay, look at me. So, obviously I'm bald, we can all stop laughing. But if I had hair, my hairline would carry on like that. Can you see that would be the shape of it? It's kind of disappeared here, but you can see a little bit of density just here, where I'm trying to control it. So my hairline basically curves around like that. So if you were cutting a classic fringe, what you would tend to do is you look at the roundness of the head, okay? At this point here is where my head starts to round off this way. So basically I know the hair will naturally come out of my head and move downwards this way. So what you want to do is you always want the fringe to sit in its natural position. So what you would tend to do is go from the recession to the recession. You tend to come straight across the point where the roundness comes, so we know all that hair will sit down. Obviously, if someone's got a really strong growth pattern, say here, you might not want to cut a fringe, but if you decided that you did, what you could do is actually go slightly more diagonal like that, like a triangle, and introduce more hair into that specific zone, just to manage that movement there. But technically, 99% of the time, what I would do is I'd go from the recession to the recession, straight across. If you go into a point, which a lot of people do, the danger of that is that this point here, if it's too far past the roundness of the head, when the head goes up, that hair falls over here, so they end up having a little bit of a line here. So it is based on density, how high the hairline goes, texture of hair, but I'd say the majority of the time you tend to go from the recession to the recession, just come straight across, and that would naturally become your disconnection. Okay, so now I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes really making this fringe really, really neat. And this is where the detail comes in. This is the point where you really start to kind of focus on making the shape sit there every single time. Who asked that? Ravina asked that question, didn't she? Rafina. And what did Jason ask? Remind me again.
Jason asked you, is there any reason you didn't use a nozzle to dry?
Ah, that was it. That was the blow dry. And what other question? There was another question prior to that as well.
They want to see you in Mexico.
Okay. All right, no problem. I haven't missed a question. Is what I'm basically asking.
I don't think you have. No.
Okay. Good. Okay, so I'm using a chipping technique, guys, now. And chipping basically creates a solid but slightly shattered line. Okay? Now by putting that initial weight line in there in the first place, by choosing that initial length, I've still got a bend which is really nice. Now don't worry about all this. All this is going to kind of fall over the top of it and get a bit of a softness, but the fringe will always poke through now. However she moves the length, the fringe will always come through the shape, which is quite nice. Okay, now I'm going to start to work on all of my exterior shape, which is here. So I'm going to just keep encouraging this movement. I love that. I think that's really pretty. Okay, I might strengthen the edge a little bit, but I love the way that's sitting. Okay, now I'm going to come into the back. Head down for me, Donnie. As far down as you can go, if possible. Perfect, thank you. Michelle, do me a favour, darling, just to make my life a bit easier and a bit quicker. Would you mind grabbing the small clippers from downstairs? In fact, on Ped's desk there is the plug-in clippers, the new ones. If you could grab them for me, that'd be incredible. Thanks, Papa. Okay, so now that I'm working, I'm going to work on all my exterior shape. I need to plan and program what it is that I'm going to do, okay? Now there's different things that I could do. Different shape, there's many different shapes that I could create. What I could do is I could keep it quite soft and just dust the ends off it. I could go for something quite rounded, but the other day someone said to me, do you know when I always notice your haircut, Johnny, because the outlines are always round? And I was like, you what? I was like, okay, right. No more round outlines for me. So I'm going to change the outline. I'm going to go for slightly more of a kind of pointy type outline, more curvature to it. I'm going to keep this bit quite soft, okay? But I'm going to go from here. I'm going to keep that length there. I'm going to gently chip that line in. Now obviously you need nice sharp scissors to do this, to get a really nice defined line. So I'm using the new Allilon scissors to get that beautiful line. Okay. Now another thing you could do, if you just tilt the head slightly, comb the head down, you could club cut it like that, okay? When you club cut, you tend to get straight lines, so I don't want to get a straight line, so I tend to bevel it and use my wrist here to pivot, like that, with my wrist, okay? Now you could comb it down, rest your scissors, then rest your comb, and then work your line. And what you do is I move my comb. Can you see how I rotate the comb? So I start there and I basically rotate the comb. And that way, I get a nice bit of definition there. And again, now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to play a bit more. I'm going to come in from here and I'm going to carve out that way. So it's going to almost be like a little arc and then another arc. So I'm going to come inside the shape. And I'm going to go up and round. So again, I'm using my wrist. And I'm arcing down to my shape there. And by doing that, the hair allows itself to move and kick to where it naturally wants to sit, which is always nice. Okay, and then spin the chair around. Use your mirror to see the outline. That's quite cute, I like that. Yeah? And then from here I'm going to do something different. So I'm really going to really play and exaggerate my external shape. Tilt the head down like that, darling. Okay, from here, now let me get over there, Jane. From here, I'm going to arc up and round like this.
Have you gone through any questions, Jamie? Or?
Nope, I've been bish-boshing the outline.
Are you ready for one?
I'd love one.
Let me catch my breath. So Matthew Watt says, with the more creative cuts, do you decide on the final look before cutting it? Do you sometimes assess it throughout the cut?
Who said that? Matthew Watts?
Yep.
That Matthew. First of all, Matthew, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Okay, this is what I say to a lot of people. Sometimes people think I'm a bit bonkers, but I promise you, I'm not lying. It's 100% true. The hair speaks to you when you're cutting it. As you're cutting the hair basically reacts and communicates to you, tells you what's the right decisions to make. So, what I tend to do is I tend to have some kind of plan, or at least definitely a starting position. And then what I do is I basically start cutting and listen to what the hair tells me, and then I respond based on what it needs. So if the hair needs to change length or change shape or change weight distribution, then I'll basically do that. But you have to almost listen to what the hair's telling you.
So Melissa has a question. She said, do you make left-handed scissors?
Unfortunately, at the moment we don't, Melissa. It's definitely something we're going to look into in the future. At the moment, we don't, unfortunately. Sorry. It's something we've discussed quite a bit, and it's something Jonathan's quite passionate about us doing. He's always kind of reminding us to maybe think about, is now the right time to kind of focus on that side of the business. But at the moment, there isn't a plan to.
Ralphina asked, is it wrong to create a higher hairline than what the person had, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Think of the hairline a little bit like a fringe, okay? People can come in and get like a fringe trim at any point, can't they? Free of charge. Think about neck hairs being similar. It takes you 30 seconds, not even that, 10 seconds, to get rid of neck hair. And if it makes the haircut really cool, really modern and really designed and really architectural, then it's quite nice to do it. If you can work with a natural hairline, of course you can. If you cut something heavier, i.e. like a line, then that's irrelevant. But you should try and think of it as just, it's a sculpture, isn't it? We're creating a sculpture, shape, form, with the hair. And sometimes if you want to create a story or something of point of interest, then that's how you can do it. Let me show you something. This is going to be interesting for you guys. Can you see, when you look at the shape, there's something not right here. It's collapsing a little bit there and it's slightly more bulky there. So what we need to do is we need to find out what that is. So by taking a horizontal section, if you come on top of me, James, and just film down, you'll be able to see what's going on. So can you see a little bit of density there, a little bit of weight line? That little bit of weight line basically is where the occipital bone is. And what it is when I cut it wet, I was very sensitive to my tension there. So what I did is I cut it quite softly in my fingers so that when it's dry, I can then reassess how much influence the occipital bone is having over the texture of the hair. So that little bit of weight that I was just nipping off was basically the excess length that I basically maintained when releasing the tension in my occipital bone area. Now all this hair here, I'm going to cross check it all, okay? And the reason I cross check all this hair is not necessarily just to make sure it's clean, but also to dust all the edges of the hair. And that way it'll sit much smoother for me. You can see how I do this. What I do is I comb the hair, so let me show you again. I'll show you slowly. I comb the hair, I maintain the hair there with my finger. I come from the underneath, and then I secure the hair in my fingers. Yeah? Okay, then come on there, Jim. Come on there. Okay. Then once you've done that, take a vertical section, just comb the hair out. Again, be careful how much tension you use because of the occipital bone. And then just dust your shape vertically. Just dust it. All right, now come on to this side, Jane. Come on to this side. So I've kept my length obviously behind the ear here, okay? Now what I've got to think about now is, am I happy with the density of the hair here? For me, this is a little bit too heavy, a little bit too wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comb the hair down, and with my scissors, I'm just going to go in like that and close my blade as I go in like that. So as you go in, then you close. In, close. In, close. In, close. And then comb the hair down, and all that weight will basically be reduced. Okay? And it will just collapse the shape a little bit for me. Okay? Just like that. Just like that. I don't want to disturb that. I want to keep that. Now my question is, before I kept this bit quite soft on the outline, do you remember? Now I could kind of sculpt that a little bit more, but again I think it's not quite nice if it's soft. The outline in the back is quite strong. So come this way, tilt the head slightly, and just gently slice some of the hair through. That way some of the darker hair is exposed as well, which is quite cool as well. Get rid of some of the blonde in it so this becomes weaker and more fluffy. And the dark hair starts to peek through a bit more. I'm really enjoying, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but at the moment I'm really enjoying kind of a lot of the haircuts that have got all these regrowths. You know, like for example, a lot of these colours that people are doing now where the roots are different colours to the ends. I really like that. I really think that's quite interesting. It gives you a very bespoke way of working. Okay, now this area here now, I'm going to go through and soften that through. But you can see, just visually looking in the front, it's just streamlined that point there. And this little corner here brings out the attention to this eye, which I think is quite cute. She's got beautiful little eyes. So now I'm going to come around this way, tilt the head towards me. I want to keep all of this length, but I want to remove some of the density in the hair. Okay? So I'm going to come across horizontally. Pick the hair up, and I'm going to go quite deep. I'm going to go quite deep. I'm going to do this for the first, say, 4 or 5 sections in this zone. Now the danger of doing what I'm doing, I'll show you now, is that when you take your next section and come up, okay, the danger is you're going to break into the first section that you did. So what you should do is, rather than bring it up, comb it out and go at it this way. So that way you're not basically creating big holes in your shape. Even though I cut it up here, I don't want to keep taking weight out of the first section. So comb it out from the base. What that's doing is going to make the whole shape streamline. I'm going to do one more section, and I'm going to make sure that I keep enough length to manage all that length in the outline. So I need to go a bit higher actually. Let me do that properly. Hide your scissors. And then comb the out with your fingers. See what I did with my fingers? Did that to lift the hair. Then get your comb underneath it. Then comb it out from the base. And then again, quite deep. And what that does, it just streamlines the whole thing and makes all the different zones integrate. I like that. That's pretty. I like the fact that it's quite soft as well. Yeah. I hope you guys think that looks good. I quite like it. Okay, check the balance in the back. And now can you see, if you look in the mirror, Jane, you'll be able to see it much clearer. Because I've cross-checked all that, look how clean that looks, and look how shiny that looks because of my hands constantly working that line, working the internal shape. And then just by 50-50ing it and using the colour, I get this unusual kind of definition in the shape. Now, the only thing that's not kind of rocking my boat at the moment is this little corner here. I think what it is, because this goes up and then drops and then goes square, it doesn't look sexy. So what I might do is I might just rock it off and just round it off into a beautiful little curve. I think visually that would look nicer. Do you guys agree? Let's have a bit of a discussion about it first before I go whacking it off. But once it's gone, it's gone. So do you think I should just take that away so it's more of a fluid shape? I know Jonathan's going to be saying yes. I know he will. I'm pretty sure he's with Kate, and Kate's definitely saying yes. Okay, so on this side, if you look carefully, look, this is quite, yeah. Do you remember I said before about listening to the hair? So you know we never blow dried this. This is moving beautifully, but can you see this bit here? It's kind of a bit lost in translation. It's almost breaking back on itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to what it's telling me, and I'm going to take this hair away and cut it short. So all my focal point is basically this hair here that naturally does what it wanted to do. So what I do now is I'm going to come back through here. Rest your comb on the root, then rest the hair down on the comb, and then take it away. Watch again. Take it away. And now what will happen is the hair that's moving will sit nicer because it's not being interrupted by all that hair that's coming from above. But it's still quite soft. I'm not carving it around the ear.
So we have a few people that agree with you with the hairline.
Okay. Does anyone say keep it?
No, everyone says...
Get rid of it.
Yeah,
okay.
One of them said...
Please get rid of it.
Makes the neck look longer, follow the shape of the neck.
Okay.
And Denise was saying, I was thinking the same thing, get rid of the notch.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, you just got to try things out sometimes, you know? Takes 10 seconds, not even that. And it does look, I'll be honest, it does look better. It does look better. You know what it was? It almost wasn't there. It either needs to be there or not be there. When it's kind of almost not that obvious, it looks like a mistake rather than it's like a statement. So what I'm liking so far, guys, if you look in the mirror, Jane, I'm liking the fact that I've got this kind of 50-50 shape. I'm liking the fact that the colour is looking like we've coloured it on purpose like that because of the way we've cut it. And I do like the fact that this kind of, this length here has an element of softness. It breaks over the top of it. So I don't want to take too much length off, but at the same time the hair is very delicate. So I'm going to move into my last zone on the top. Guys, if any of you have any questions and you want to ask, maybe try, because Gabriella's left. But if you do want to try, feel free, and if you've got any questions, feel free to ask, okay? Okay, now with the top, I want it to be quite soft. I don't want it to be too short. I want it to be able to move, and I like the way you did that. Yes, please. Yeah. So I'm going to keep quite a lot of length on top. I just need to understand how much of it is damaged and how much needs to go. So if I comb the hair up, so I take a section from the front to the back, okay? Comb that hair up, and I can visually see now how much of the hair is like very, very delicate and how much of it I can maintain. Ideally, I'm thinking kind of getting rid of that. That definitely has to go, because that's kind of a bit delicate. Anything I've got to be careful is where that link's going to sit in the front and whether it's going to do anything. I might need to keep a little bit of that breakage just to give me a little bit of a, so it doesn't sit directly on the ear. So I'm going to go a little bit higher than I'd like to go. I'm going to cut a square cutting line. A square cutting line, just so that basically I get rid of all that damage, but at the same time I keep an element of length to it. And what I'm going to do, I want to keep the back quite long so it wraps more on the darker side, so I need to over direct this side more, but at the same time I want to expose the hair. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm just talking you through my thought process. I'm going to pivot, okay, up to the point where the center of the crown is, okay, where I'm then going to stop. So I'm going to pivot with a square cutting line and then stop at this point. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with the other side. Again, combing 1 to 2. So again, I'm working a round shape, but working round horizontally, but square vertically. So by doing this, this hair will wrap around that way and it will all rotate back, but you'll see what I mean later on. So, comb the hair up, as high up as you can, and really look at the root. So look at this bit here. This bit here will show me how I'm elevating and how I'm over directing. Okay. 2 more sections, and I'm going to move on and I'm almost finished. Guys, thank you for asking me questions tonight. I love that. I really do love the interaction. Again, feel free to share the video. On the bottom left-hand side of the screen is the share button. If you've enjoyed it or are enjoying it and you want other people to enjoy it, please feel free to share it. That way I expose a little bit of that movement underneath. Okay, one more actually. So I clear the ear. Is the lighting okay, or shall I move around? Jane?
That's good.
You sure, yeah? Mm-hmm. Can everyone see? Good. I love that sound when it goes. I love that. Like a ninja sword. Right, okay, on this side now, I'm going to work the same methodical method of working, but as I get to about here, I'm going to over-direct everything round. So it'll be 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and so forth. When I get to here, everything's going to come back to whatever number that will be. Okay, so that way I keep a little bit of length that wraps around that way. look at the root of the hair that I'm cutting. Make sure the root of the hair is going straight up. I love it when you've got a new pair of scissors and it just glides through the hair like butter. My favourite. That was my Scottish accent, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. It was shocking, wasn't it?
It was so bad.
It was so bad. Is that where you're from?
Yeah, it's where I'm from.
Oh, sorry. Just completely disrespected your whole culture.
I feel like everybody attempts to do a Scottish accent.
Yeah, often whenever I do accents, I always end up sounding either Jamaican or Indian or Greek. It always ends up kind of in those realms. Okay. So I hope everyone's enjoying what they're seeing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just start to ask a few questions to see who's been concentrating and see if we can really get some of the language going. So in zone 1, I took a vertical section. Well, actually, technically it was diagonal, but closer to vertical than it was horizontal, through the nape. And my number system was 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so forth. So my number system was technically creating a round shape horizontally. What was it that created my vertical triangular shape? That's the question. Now, guys, everything's coming back to this point, yeah? So what you could do, this is a good little tip, take the guide and take everything else away. So the point where your numbers change, so now everything's going to be coming back to this, okay? So the only section you should have in your hand is your guide and the hair that you're introducing to the guide. Anyone, any takers, Michelle?
No takers.
No takers, come on guys. I'm going to come to you two in a minute if no one else guesses. You know the answer, don't you though?
I hope so.
Yeah, the answer. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's one question.
So Tonic Hairstyle said cutting line.
Yeah, that's my boys.
Andreas said angle of cutting line and elevation. And Lance said, give me your Jamaican accent, please.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay, first of all, boys, my boys from Greece, well done. Very good. That's exactly the answer. It was the cutting line and the elevation that controlled that vertical shape. So well done. The Jamaican accent, okay, I don't know if I can do it now because my confidence is dropping all of a sudden. So I don't know if I can do that.
Try to do a Scottish accent.
My Scottish one's
It'll
shocking.
sound Jamaican.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Try and do a Greek one, it will sound Jamaican. Okay, I'm liking the way that's kind of wrapping around. Oh, that's moving. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron the hair through slightly. And I'm also going to, I need to expose a bit more this dark hair underneath. I think it's quite cool. I'm going to show it off. So again, oil. Now, don't forget this hair needs it, yeah? You can constantly work it in because the hair will just absorb it.
Chara has a question.
Okay.
She said, hi from Greece.
Hello.
I would like to ask if the elevation is a form of over-direction and the opposite.
Ooh, very good question. Very good question. I wonder if she's sitting there with the boys from Tonic. It's a good question. So, the question is, in effect, is elevation and over-direction the same thing? That's kind of what the person's just asked. Okay? And this is a discussion and a debate that, believe me, as an Allilon team, we have discussed, debated, and debated. So, the conclusion at the moment for that decision is that, in effect, when you're cutting hair, you're always using, actually now let me rephrase that because this is important. There's going to be certain haircuts where elevation of direction do not play a part, i.e. a round line, okay? You're combing everything to natural fall or allowing it to sit in its natural position and you're cutting it. There's going to be haircuts where you're physically lifting the hair, so elevation comes to play. And there's going to be haircuts where you're physically moving the hair backwards or forwards. So we tend to look at elevation as up and down, and over direction as left and right, or backwards and forwards. That's how we tend to teach people it. Now, if you try to, it depends how deep you want to go on this. I don't know if this is the right forum to discuss it, but it depends how meticulous you want to get with the discussion. For example, just to really simplify it, if I take a section like that, okay? So get ready because this is a bit of a headache, this one. So let's say I take a piece of hair like that, which is a horizontal section, yeah? Now, if you really, really, really think about it, okay? Even though I'm combing it straight out, you're saying, but the hair's coming straight out from the head. Yes, it is, but think about the head shape. At this center point here, right in the middle, the hair is coming straight out. But as you move across, the head is actually moving away from you. So technically, the hair is being over-directed slightly up. It's not coming out from the base. It's coming up into my finger. So if you imagine, instead of it being like that, that will be out from the base. I'm actually pulling it across like that. I don't know if you can see that well in the camera. So because of the head shape, there's always an element of over-direction and elevation. The key to think about it, if you start to go into that kind of microscopic way of thinking, it can become a little bit ridiculous because you kind of get, at any one time, you always tend to be using, not use the word always, you tend to use elevation and over-direction whenever you're working internally. That's what I tend to teach anyway. You tend to use over-direction and elevation. Just so you know, as a company, we always say, never say always or never, because things are always debatable. You could always find another angle. But when we work internally, we tend to use elevation and over direction. As soon as you start picking the hair up in your hands, basically, you could argue that elevation and over direction are in play. Okay, I'm not happy with the density of this hair here, so I'm just gonna gently just work this down a little bit.
By the way, Johnny, she's getting a lot of love. Everyone's loving your haircut and saying how beautiful she is.
Yeah, she's a beautiful girl. Makes it a lot easier for me, doesn't it? She's from Scotland, that's why. She's Scottish.
Well, that was even worse than last time.
Sorry. Yeah, wee haggis. Right, a little bit here. I know if Jonathan and Kate are listening, they're definitely cringing at this point. And if Mad's listening, she's definitely cringing because she's Scottish. She's got some Scottish in her. Actually, I'm not sure if Graham's got any Scottish in him. I can't remember.
Cassie asked, why are you texturizing so close to scalp?
Because basically, I don't like the density of it. I don't want it to go spiky on me. So I'm just literally working. You can see I'm working like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm working backwards into myself. And then I'm combing the hair through to see how it naturally sits. Yeah, I love that. That's really pretty now. Okay, I'm going to iron the hair through. And then I'm point the top and I'm done. Okay. So my sectioning pattern when I'm ironing can be very random. It doesn't have to be so structured. The more horizontal the iron is, the section is, sorry, the easier it is for you to iron because your ironing is always going to tend to go horizontal. It's very rarely going to go diagonally. So try to take sections when ironing that are basically as horizontal as possible, as close to horizontal as possible. Okay, I've got another question for everybody. So this question is, I want to see if everyone was listening. when working a shape or when cutting a shape, what things help me control my choice of length and help me control or help communicate to me whether my shape is symmetrical and clean and consistent? Okay, so there's two questions there. So what things help me understand if my balance and my symmetry, and I'm working methodically and clean, what things help me see visually if my mechanics are clean? Remember, the closer to horizontal your sections are, the more control you're going to have. Yeah?
I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Maria or Marja? Shine line.
Ooh, shine line. We didn't discuss that, but that's a good point. I know who that is as well. Hello.
Manisha?
Yeah, it's close. You got it close. Well done. So, the shine line definitely helps. So what is a shine line? Let's have a quick discussion about what a shine line is. A shine line is basically where the light reflects off the hair and where it sits on the head. And what that does, it helps communicate where the weight distribution is. I.e., if the shine line dips at one specific area, the chances are that you're off balance with regards to your internal method of working. So the shine line definitely plays a part, so well done.
Tonic Hairstyle said bend, roots, numbers.
These things definitely have a dictate whether you're in control of your shape, definitely. Good. Someone mentioned it before, the answer, and it's really obvious when you look at the hair.
Jackie said clean sectioning.
That definitely plays a massive part.
And Ralphina said roots and number system.
Yeah. Colour.
Oh, Allison said color, and so did Sarah.
Well done. Colour plays a massive part, yeah? Massive part. So looking at the root helps you with your tension, understand your elevation and your over direction, and your number system. Looking at the colour helps you understand whether your system, your number system, you've been cutting accurately or not. So now I've cut my shape mechanically, I'm going to go through and I'm really going to start to soften the hair through. And the reason for that is because I want to expose some of the darker hair underneath.
So James said, what would you say is your biggest challenge in cutting?
My biggest challenge in cutting, I would say, my biggest challenge in cutting is a really good question. I struggle with a lot of things, if I'm honest. I think the biggest struggle that I have mentally is, why am I talking so quietly? I think the biggest struggle I have mentally, in life in general, when I'm cutting hair, is that I have to keep forcing myself to not be lazy, because obviously I'm responsible for a lot of, I can't preach one thing and do something else. So I represent a company, I represent a philosophy, I represent a thought process, and I need to make sure that I'm really disciplined in regards to what I'm doing. And I struggle with that. As I get older, I struggle with that. And this is going to sound really pathetic, but my eyes aren't what they used to be. I need glasses and I'm trying to avoid it like the plague. But I need to really always be careful with not becoming lazy. Because I think as people become more and more experienced, they become more and more comfortable and far too relaxed, and then they end up becoming kind of quite messy. And for me, that's I said to Jonathan and to Kate, and I'm pretty sure to Graham and Johan actually, if they ever see, and I said to Jay as well, if they ever see me losing it, I want them to tell me. If they ever see me starting to become sloppy, I want them to tell me, because it's very easy to fall into that trap, and there's a lot of hairdressers who have fallen into that trap over the years, where they've just become really comfortable. But if you're going around preaching and teaching and inspiring, it's important that you remain that consistent. It's important that you kind of manage that consistency.
So Cassie is asking, what's her texture, curly or straight?
The hair is straight, but it's just a little bit dehydrated. So what I'm doing now, guys, I'm just slicing through this hair just so that the colour starts to peek through, the dark hair starts to peek through a bit more. I like the fact that I've got this kind of kiss curl coming back here, this hair working around the back. I'm going to go through my internal shape now and really, really soften it through so there's no definition there. So as I move it around after and as I style it, the hair will just really have that freedom. Now when you're pointing into the hair, my advice to you would be, try not to keep going back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. Either go once across and then comb it through. If the hair is dense, like in this scenario, you can go once across and then once back across, but then stop, comb it through, and then look at the result of what you're creating. I'm going in quite deep as well because I want there to be some texture. Tilt the head towards you. And that way, technically, I'm kind of almost on top of the head now. Comb the hair up, make sure you've got a clean line. Really, really important. You don't just point into a shape that isn't clean. I hate it when I see that. It's one of my pet peeves.
Natasha said, I don't think you'll ever become messy. You're too much of a perfectionist.
She should have met me 10 years ago. I had an illness. I was ill. That's very sweet of her, but I definitely I'm trying. I do try. I do struggle with that. There's a few things I struggle with. Let me go into that because I think it's important actually. It's a very good question, and a lot of the times people tend to hide behind their weaknesses and they try and avoid discussing them. But I don't mind it because I like I said, say to every student who ever comes into our academy, it's okay to make mistakes and it's important to make mistakes, and it's important to also understand that all these people that you see on stage or on the internet or whatever, they're exactly the same as you. They're no different. The only thing that maybe might elevate them slightly in regards to the craft is their practice and their passion and their focus and their detail and their experience. But trust me, every single hairdresser, no matter who they are, and if they tell you they don't, they're lying to you or they're lying to themselves. Every single hairdresser struggles with balance and managing balance. They have to really concentrate to get the balance accurate. Every hairdresser struggles with making sure that they're grooming really, really well, both the hair that they're cutting and the excess hair, which is the hair that you're not cutting. And again, these are things you have to be really conscious of. You have to think about it. Every hairdresser, talk about me, forget about everyone else. I struggle with remembering or sticking to a plan. I do like to kind of get into a zone and just change and play, and sometimes I find that quite challenging. Also, another thing I find quite challenging is I like to do things that sometimes are a bit ugly or unusual or something that the eye doesn't quite get. It's like, you know, like for example, the hairline before. I like trying things out because that's how you discover new things. Whereas if you keep doing what your eye accepts and what your eye likes, you've seen it before and you've done it before. So I like to do things and try things out that I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to look good. And if it doesn't, I know I've got the experience and the technical knowledge to be able to change it and fix it and basically usually simplify it. So I like being able to do things that are a bit bonkers sometimes. Not everyone always gets it. Some people don't always like my work, which is cool. I understand. Does it bother me? Sometimes maybe not. But I like to challenge myself. I like to start haircuts in really awkward places. I like to start haircuts in places where did it even make sense to start there? Probably not. But it challenges my mind. I get bored in life in general. I get bored very quickly. So I like to take myself out of my comfort zone, and I like to do things that are a little bit awkward.
So Ryan is asking about the scissors again. He said, what length are those shears? I don't know if it was asked. And Sasso also just mentioned, what kind of scissor do you have?
Okay, so at the moment, Jamie, if you want to zoom in here, it's cleaning some cutting hair as well. So this basically is the Allilon wing. It's our newest blade. They're 5.5 rather than 5.25. They're 5.5. They're basically gunmetal grey, and they're very pointy, and they're straight edged. Whereas our classic Allilon scissor is actually an offset scissor. Let me show you that one. This one is 5.25, and if you look at the difference, it's black obviously, but it's the actual handle. The only difference basically is the handle. The blade itself is exactly the same apart from the length. Yeah, the way, the angle of the blade, the tightness of the blade, it's exactly the same. The only big difference is one's literally 0.25 of a bit longer, and one has got an offset handle, which some people love, and one has got a straight, classic, kind of squared off handle. So at the moment I'm using the squared off one, just because it's brand new and I'm really loving enjoying it. And I'm also giving it a bit of a test one as well, to make sure I'm happy with them. You can, if you email us at info@alliloneducation.com, you'll be able to order them, and wherever you are in the world, they'll send it to you. Okay, so I'm just putting the finishing touches on there, guys. And what I want to do now is I just want to create a bit more texture on the inside of the shape. Okay, so watch what I do. Take a horizontal section, or a section from left to right, shall we say. Okay. Your blade has to go directly in, so like that, pointing. It's not going to go on an angle, it's going to go directly in, okay? And then what you do, the hair has to be going to its natural fall. And so what I'm doing, if you look at my body, I'm basically shifting. Look at my shoulders and my arms. I'm shifting my feet. So my feet, if you look down there, Jane. My feet, I'm doing that. That's the movement when I'm doing it. Okay? I feel like Michael Jackson. Next section here. Pull that down to the natural fall. And then again, go from one side to the other. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, I don't know if you, for those of you who may be new to Allilon Unplugged, but we really focus on counting. Counting the amount of times you point into the hair, counting the amount of sections you've taken, counting sorry, I just had to concentrate for a second there. Counting the amount of sections you're taking, counting how many times you're pointing into the hair, counting how many times you comb the hair. There's constant analysis of how numbers can affect your shapes. Now what this is doing is just loosening it all up. So I'm putting lots of tiny short hairs in there, just so, one, it reduces the density, so when I move it, it has like a bit of a softness to it. I don't want it to feel too heavy. So you can use slicing as well as a technique to remove some of the lengths.
Finjaway, I'm probably pronouncing your name wrong and I apologize. Finjaway is asking, that looks amazing, will you post the blueprint of the cut? I see many of my clients being open to it.
Cool. Yeah, I can definitely draw it for you if you want me to. Definitely.
And Allison said, I struggle using the mirror. I know it's important for balance. I like to cut as I see it on the head. Do you think I'm making it harder for myself, if you get what I mean?
The answer is yeah. You should use your mirror. Sorry, my advice would be use your mirror. When we teach, that's what we teach everybody. Because the mirror never lies to you. It's your worst friend and your best friend. It's your worst friend in the morning when you wake up, especially if you look like me, and it's your best friend when you cut hair, because it will never lie. Never lie. It will say to you, hello, look at this little bit you missed there, mate. Sort this out. Just want to reduce some of the density there, just so I can see the colour poking through a bit more. I like that. So this little flicky bit, I do like it, but I don't like this bit here. This bit here keeps jumping out every time I look at it. I don't like this bit here. Can you see that little lump? Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically do what I did on the other side. I'm just going to crop that little front bit down a bit more. So basically, you know, section 1 and 2, I'm basically going to add section 3 to it. And that way, that will basically take away that little front bit that I didn't like. I'll still keep all this flick here, but I won't, I'll expose that a bit more. Come up and down. And that will just carve it out. In fact, what I could probably do is I could even do this actually. If I come across horizontally like this, if I come across like that, like this, I can then basically, can I borrow your hands a sec? Would you mind just putting your hand there for me? Thank you very much, okay. If I come across here like that, and just connect that through, and I can do that further down. I'll do it one more, so I'm coming up to here now. What will happen is it will flatten that zone much more, but it will keep that little bit of a kiss coat at the end, which I quite like. See, by doing that, the focal point stays there, but it just slims out all this hair here. So if you look in the mirror now, it ends up being this little kind of loose bit. Yeah, which I quite like. Okay. So, I've come to the end of my shape. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dress it with a little bit of product. Again, a tiny bit of oil. Again, I don't want to overstyle the hair. I want the haircut to do all the work for me. So when you style the hair, my advice would be, just apply your product and then let the hair have its own natural kind of, do its own, oh, well done. Well done, Jane. Let the hair do its own natural thing. Try not to overstyle it. Apply a bit of product. Just get it nice and shiny, and it will allow me to do my thing.
Beautiful.
Like it?
Yeah, your must love too.
Good, I'm glad people like it. It's important. It's important.
Her hair looks completely different.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah, it's cool. I like the different dimensions too.
So you're is it fashion you said? Or
Yeah, it's fashion.
fashion, so it's important that you look unique, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
This, I mean, look, it's quite a funky shape, but let me simplify it and you'll see it's actually quite a... Your necklace is...
Yeah, totally thingy my neck and
Your necklace has made your neck green.
yeah, I know, it's not good.
Wasn't my scissors, I promise.
I know, but hearing my phone.
Okay, what I'll do, guys, is I'll draw this for you. So for those of you who are interested in watching me draw it and show you how I plan the haircut, then come over with me. Michelle, do me a favour. If you could just get rid of the hair. Jamie, if you come with me, darling. I'm going to sit here, Jamie, so you can see. If you want to come and watch this, I'll show you this as well. Alright. So for those of you who are watching still, this is technically how I cut the haircut. I'm going to show you the sectioning pattern, the over direction, the cutting lines and everything. And this will be a good way of you planning your shape. So the first thing we did is we put our zone in, and we started on the left hand side. The shape curved up and down. Oh, yep, it's the right side of the pen. No, it's one side of the pen. Okay, we could do that. Up and down. And then it came across there like that, didn't it? And then it came across there to the top of the ear. So it came across like that. And then across to the top of the ear like that. Okay? So that was my first zone. And what I did is I then separate that zone in the centre. Sorry, the pins. Okay. Let me see if it'll work now. Then I worked diagonal sections. No, it's not going to work. I'll use that socket pen. Diagonal sections. Going up towards vertical. And then from this point, my sections pivoted. To vertical. And then they worked vertically through. So this was the point of my pivot. So it was at this point I was basically working vertically, and if I remember rightly, I worked vertically to basically just behind the ear. Okay. Then I came through the front I took diagonal section. Let me remember, I came across. Okay, I did multiple. Thing is, with this zone, I did multiple sections because I did it diagonally, 3 or 4 sections. Then I came across horizontally and pulled everything up. So I can't show it all in one diagram. So all I'm going to do is just show the initial sections for that particular zone there. This area here, technically, what I did is I came across the whole thing horizontally like that. But it actually came from the front hairline back to there. But I can't show it because it'll confuse the diagram. Okay, then here let's go one more vertical. That's done. Then on this side, I worked from the back of the ear diagonally and I pivoted. I did it wrong. I started diagonally and I worked diagonally all the way through until I hit that center point. Once I hit that center point, I then pivoted like this. Okay, this side, I came, in effect, even though I came around that way, looks like that. At this point, behind the ear, I came diagonally down, and I also came around that way. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask. Vertically. Through the top, the zone was here, and I pivoted from this point. So at the moment what I'm doing is I'm drawing my sectioning pattern. This is a really, really important part of when someone's training. For us, this is like so important because it helps people understand and document their work correctly. How many times have you been to a seminar or a show or something? You've got home, looked at your diagram maybe a couple of months later and thought, what did I watch? I'm sure you've all done it at some point. So in effect, what I'm doing at the moment is I'm drawing my sectioning pattern at every angle. Once I've done that, I will then be able to come in and draw my internal number systems, as well as my cutting line. If those of you who are still tuned in, thank you for staying tuned in. Some people really enjoy this part and some people don't. It's okay. Right. Internal method of working. We started our haircut here. Then we started on the right side, left side. We started in the back. What am I talking about? Okay. So a method of working was my movement of my number system went up like that. My number system went across like that. My number system came across like that. So everything moved around to that point. And on this one, at this point, everything went around like that. Same here. Okay. Okay, back. And this one's interesting because this one actually went upwards, didn't it? Do you remember? This one came up like that. And this one came round like that. So that's my number systems. And now I'm just going to draw the cutting lines. So in the back, it was ever so slightly graduated on this side. On this side it was really quite fitted to the scalp, so it was more like a round layer. The top was basically a square cutting line. Okay. The outline. Do me a favour, just spin your body around so I can remember the outline. Just tilt your head down for me. Or would you mind lifting that hair up for me so I can have a look? Okay, so it's like a beautiful arc. Okay, so a bit like that. Oh no, wrong colour. Blue. Blue is my cutting line. And then the outline through the side here came down and round and flicked. And then the side went down like that. Okay. And then we also had a fringe. Oh, I forgot to draw the fringe in, didn't I? Never mind. Okay. That is my shape. I've also got a piece of length that drops behind the ear here. And wraps around the inside of the shape. And this follows the contour of the hairline. And then the fringe kicks in here. Okay, let me draw the fringe here. So the fringe zone basically came across like this.
Penny Hunley says, the diagramming is the most important thing for me to get what you were doing in the haircut. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. I think, if I'm right, the Penny you just mentioned is the Penny that was on the same course as you.
Oh.
I think so.
Hi, Penny.
I'm pretty sure. If that's you, Penny from Chicago, just let us know. Okay, and then the outline of the fringe literally followed the hairline.
It is Penny from Chicago.
Hey y'all.
Hi, Penny.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to call that a day. Good. Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the haircut. It's quite a creative haircut today, lots of different things happening. Please try it. Please feel free to give it a go. Thank you for asking a lot of questions today. It really does make the whole thing enjoyable for me. Enjoy it, and I'll see you next week, okay? Have a lovely day. Thank you.